Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Vic here doing the battle of the franchises, Scream versus Final Destination. Listen, two of the most popular modern horror franchises there are. This is going to be very interesting. They both have 6 films. So this is the perfect time to compare both franchises, see which one's coming on top. Scream fans, get your pitchforks ready. Final Destination fans, get your Grim Reaper, whatever the Grim Reaper carries as a weapon. Get that ready, and let's all go to war, but in a friendly way over the franchises. Now, of course, before we get into the video, if you like this video at the end, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Let's talk the OGs, the original. We have Final Destination from the year 2000 versus Scream 1996. Wow. I mean, listen. Scream started a whole new boom period for slasher films. Really, in a way, kind of saved the damn horror film industry because, 94, 95 were really bad years for horror films. They weren't making money. They weren't doing much box office wise, interest wise, anything. I think even in 1993, I think Jason Goes to Hell was the highest grossing horror film of 93, and that barely made any damn money at all. So 96 comes along, and the great combination of Kevin Williamson writing along with Wes Craven's directing gives us an all-time classic slasher film, the original Scream, classic Final Girl, Sidney Prescott. We got a great cast, Matthew Lillard hamming it up. We got Skeet Ulrich doing a great psychotic Billy Loomis character. You got the great video store geek Randy. You got Rose McGowan playing fantastic friend Tatum. You got the debut of Deputy Dewey played by David Arquette, and of course Gale Weathers played by Courtney Cox. So it's just a great cast, a great movie. Really plays with the idea of characters who grew up watching the horror films we love of the 80s. Now they know the rules, they know the stakes, they know what's going on, so they can comment on it. So you got so much meta commentary in the first Scream. And listen, a big box office hit, so you got a lot of pretenders coming behind it. You had I Know You Did Last Summer, you have Urban Legend, you have, they say Halloween H2O is a damn Scream sequel. I think it's a little bit better than that. But either way, a lot of that stuff was kind of bankrolled on the idea of the success of Scream. It made horror hot again. Horror's popping right now, but it wasn't popping in the 90s until Scream came along. So you got to give it a lot of credit. Final Destination, by the year 2000, I would say that, yes, horror was still popping, so it can be credited somewhat to Scream, but the concept of Final Destination is so original that I think that movie was going to get made no matter what. The idea of death as a character. I mean, you're not getting stalked by an idiot in a ghost face mask or, Jason or Michael. It's actually death itself. And that's a pretty amazing concept for a movie, for a franchise. But how good is the original Final Destination? Well, on recent watches of all of them, because when I watched the new one, part 6, of course, like many of us probably did, I went back and watched the original ones. I do like the first one a lot still. I still think it has the best characters, and I think that a lot of the deaths really hold up well. I think the bus death scene is a great shock death scene. The whole train track scene actually I think is pretty well done. And I do love the entire ending sequence of Final Destination. That whole thing in Paris, that's just a great way to end a film. So I know some people aren't as high on the original Final Destination, but I think it's really, really good. It's in my top 3 in the franchise overall. But you got to give the edge to Scream here. Scream, like I said, just the first 10 minutes of Scream is still better than anything in Final Destination. That whole opening scene with Drew Barrymore is probably maybe top 3 opening scene in horror film history. So impactful, establishes such stakes, establishes Ghostface, establishes Roger Jackson as Ghostface voice. So you got to go with the iconic original Scream. Let's move on to Final Destination Part 2 versus Scream 2. Well, I'll say this. I saw Scream 2 in theaters, and initially I wasn't as high on it as everybody else was. A lot of people think Scream 2 is one of the best sequels in all of horror films. Maybe I was just a little bit discouraged by my favorite character, Randy, being killed about 45 minutes in. Eventually, I came to agree with the general idea that maybe you had to do that to raise the stakes, although I still think that really still wasn't worth the juice wasn't worth the squeeze on that because you could have used that character over and over again in the franchise. And then, me and Nick Arcana reviewing the movie Scream 2, we found so many like damn, the killers got really lucky. A lot of scenes or a lot of stuff just seems over the top silly. Like, how the hell did that happen? Freaking Omar Epps in the bathroom stall. How the hell did Ghostface know to be in the stall next to him? How did he know exactly where to stab? Was he really going to risk all that to do that in a public bathroom? Just so many things have to go right to make that scene happen. And there's a lot of scenes like that, like Ghostface hiding in the van. Like, what if somebody else comes to the van? What if someone sees him exit the van? There's so much that can go wrong there. Ghostface setting up the entire thing to take place at the theater at the end just gets lucky that Cindy happens to come to the theater. She has no necessary reason to go to the theater, and she ends up there. A lot of coincidences in Scream 2, but it is saved by great performances and one really, really good chase scene with Gale Weathers and Ghostface. Maybe the second or third best modern horror chase scene I've seen. It's right up there with Helen Shivers and I Know We Did Last Summer. So Scream 2 does have a lot of solid stuff. Meanwhile, Final Destination 2, I think the biggest thing that movie's known for is that opening highway scene. That scene that really made nobody want to drive behind a log truck ever again the rest of their lives. That's so built into our psyche that I think that you have to say that it's almost as impactful of an opening scene as Drew Barrymore's opening thing in the original Scream. So the rest of the movie is solid. I think that Final Destination 2 has solid characters. Not as fun for me or not as likable for me as the characters from the original Final Destination. But I can see where Final Destination 2, with the fun death scenes, continues to build on the premise with new lore. I can see where a lot of people have a good time with it. But I'm going to have to go with Scream 2 over Final Destination 2, making it 2-0. Scream in the lead so far. Let's get to part 3, round 3. Scream 3 versus Final Destination 3. Well, Scream 3 muddled in controversy because we had apparently there was a whole script that had Stu coming back. Yes, there was a time maybe Stu was still alive. Matthew Lillard in jail with a cult of members following his orders on the outside, still stalking Cindy. But Columbine happened. They had to throw that out. Although there's at least one person who said there was never a script for that movie anyways. But we get kind of a sort of oddball storyline of Dewey and Gale really are the central characters here, and Cindy's off living in the mountains and has to be kind of lured out to come back. I don't know if it was just strictly that Cindy was busy or Neve Campbell was busy doing other stuff or what, but she's really not that present in this movie. She comes in the second half of the movie, but really this is really Gale and Dewey's movie, it feels like. Weak supporting characters for the most part. One standout character in Scream 3 carries the whole damn thing for me. Jennifer, played by Parker Posey, steals the movie. Funny, great in every scene. Should have survived at the end. So she's a highlight of Scream 3. But overall, it definitely is a step down from the original Scream and definitely a step down from Scream 2. On the other hand, Final Destination 3, I gotta say again, to me, does everything right. Continues to build on the lore. Has strong characters here. I think that I'm a fan of Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She does a great job here. But I buy her and the dude, and they have good chemistry, and you want to see them survive. And I hope they did survive. I hope they somehow survived that train crash at the end, although it's not looking good. And you have a great opening roller coaster sequence that, yeah, makes me not want to be one of those rare people who somehow flies off a roller coaster. You see that damn article once a year about something like that happening. It always makes me kind of cringe, but I'm going to go with Final Destination 3. Final Destination taking the first lead here in the franchise. I think it's a better movie than Scream 3, better executed. Sometimes just sticking with what works makes sense. And Scream 3 tries to do some other things, and I don't think it really worked as well. Heading into now round 4, where 2-1 Scream is winning, but we're heading into Scream 4 versus Final Destination 4. I just call it The Final Destination 3D, Final Destination Part 4. Saw it in theaters back when it first came out. And how did I feel about it? I hated it. And I still don't like it. I'm not going to say too much about this. I'm going to say that Scream 4 is underrated. Jill is one of the best killers in the franchise. I think that Emma Roberts does a great job as Jill. I think that Kirby's a great side character there as well. And you get pretty good performances from the original Big Three. I'm just not gonna say that much about Final Destination, the 3D one. I just think it's the one bad movie in the franchise. The one movie I will skip every time on rewatches. I just don't know what they were doing here. Just Easy win for Scream 4. Okay, and that makes it 3-1 so far in favor of the Scream franchise. Heading into now Final Destination 5 versus Scream 2022. Why the hell wasn't this movie called Scream 5? I don't know. I don't understand, but that's been the trend. So we got to just go with that. The new I Know You Did Last Summer just called again I Know You Did Last Summer. I don't know why franchises keep doing this, but they do. Listen, this is a tough one. I like both movies a lot. Nick Arcana was very high on Scream 2022 coming out of theaters. Said it might be his favorite in the franchise, of course, after part 1. But Final Destination 5, I think, wins it here. One of the better sequels in the franchise and does pretty much everything right. Again, the Final Destination movies, they locked in a formula. They know what the audience wants, and they give it to them. With Scream, there's always a lot more going on. You have to reinvent the wheel, come up with new things. So sometimes it can be hit or miss, although I know people say it's one of the more consistent franchises in horror. I agree. There's really no there's no bad Scream movies. There's no movies that are like bottom of the barrel. There's no Halloween Resurrection in either of these franchises. But Final Destination, man, well, they do have part 4 is a bottom of the barrel sequel, I'd say. But for the most part, they're consistently hitting out the park. And Final Destination Part 5, I do think is better than Scream 2022, although that's by far the closest one in this threat. The closest matchup, I would say, for sure. Okay, so let's do an update where we're at. So we have Scream, and then Scream 2, Final Destination 3, Scream 4, and now Final Destination 5. So actually, Scream is up 3-2 over the Final Destination series so far. And that means this 6th movie is either going to be Scream winning the damn franchise or Final Destination coming in clutch and tying. And we have Scream 6 versus the newest Final Destination 6. I saw both in theaters with Nick Arcana. Scream 6, let's talk for a second, because anytime I diss this movie or say anything negative, there's a comment with like paragraphs of someone just like being like, listen, let me tell you why you're wrong. This is why Scream 6 is one of the best movies ever. I get it. A lot of Scream fans love Scream 6. I'm not here to tear it down. You can have your Scream 6 ice cream, eat it with sprinkles if you like. All I would say is that I like the first half of Scream 6. Big fan of everything leading up to right around this sequence with Gale Weathers where she's chased by Ghostface, has a perfectly laid out death scene, and then she just doesn't die. And I understand that's okay because there was a backlash from a lot of people from Dewey dying in Scream 2022. It's like, hey, how dare you kill off the legacy characters at this point in the franchise? I sort of get that. So let's leave Gale alive. I get that. But then we cut to Mindy on a train, who again has a great setup and a great death scene, and she just doesn't die. And I'm like, okay, so Gale didn't die, Minnie didn't die. This is certainly a choice. And then we get to Chad, set up with an amazing, amazing death scene, stabbed as shit by 2 different knives, 2 different ghost faces, stabbed many times, and he just doesn't die. And then that sort of led into a really cheesy reveal from Ghostface at the end, the 3 ghost faces. Ghostface is being super incompetent once the mask comes off. Dude running at the girl. He has a gun in his hand. He's going to run at her when he can just shoot her. There's a lot of silly things at the end of Scream 6. I just think the movie goes off the rails in the last 30, 40 minutes. But I do think the first half is fantastic. On the other hand, I think Final Destination 6, we're going to do a bigger review on that. So I don't want to give away too much about that. But I'll say for the most part, I like Final Destination 6 a lot. There's nothing about Final Destination 6 that's a huge letdown for me, except maybe the ending. And I'm going to have to elaborate that more on a bigger video because we're going to be reviewing that movie very soon. But the very ending of Final Destination 6 was a little bit of a letdown for me. But everything leading up to the ending, I thought was better, fantastic. I think actually better characters even, honestly, than the big 4. I think that we get a little bit more fun with the family unit in Final Destination 6. So, surprisingly for the W, all things considered, I'm going with Final Destination 6 over Scream 6. And that one's probably a toss-up because both films are widely popular amongst the fans of each franchise. So that might come down to just which franchise you prefer. But I'm going to have to say right now, that gives Final Destination the tie with Scream. So it's 3-3, which is very interesting because we have a Scream 7 coming out next year, and you better believe there'll be a new Final Destination movie for sure because that movie made a lot of money, so that's going to be coming back for sure. So this one is a thing in progress. We have to see with the as more sequels come, which one can kind of take the lead. But right now, I got them dead even 3-3. In the comments, let me know which franchise you prefer. Do you think I got this list right? Any hot takes you have about this ranking here? Let me know. And until next time, you guys take care.